I still remember the day my father sold me for a bag of salt. Yes, salt. A thing people pour carelessly into soup, a thing that melts when touched by water, a thing that disappears on the tongue. That was what my life was worth to him. One dusty afternoon, under the cruel sun, he stood by the village square bargaining with a trader whose donkey carried sacks of salt. And when their hands shook in agreement, I knew my life had just been traded away like rotten fruit in the market. The man who bought me was not a stranger. He was called Mr. Daniels, a traveling merchant feared by children because of the scars on his face and the stories whispered about him. Stories of girls who disappeared after entering his house, stories of women who screamed in the night but were never seen in the morning. Some said he sacrificed people to the river gods. Some said he sold human beings across the border for riches. No one ever knew the truth. But everyone feared him. When he gripped my hand that day, his fingers were rough, like ropes cutting into my skin. My heart beat wildly like a trapped bird. My father's eyes avoided mine. He looked at the bag of salt instead, as if the salt was now his only child. And just like that my fate was sealed. But what my father did not know was this. He had not only sold his daughter, he had sold his own soul. For the curse that followed that bag of salt destroyed everything he ever held dear. The question is, how did it all begin? My name is Grace, and I was born in a forgotten city that many maps refused to show. It was a city full of noise, dust, and hungry mouths. The streets smelled of smoke, sweat, and secrets. Children ran barefoot chasing after scraps of food while men sat under broken umbrellas talking about politics they could not change. Mothers carried baskets heavier than their bodies, their backs bent but their eyes still burning with the fire of survival. My family was poor, so poor that even poverty laughed at us. My father, a bitter man who believed life owed him more than he received, spent most of his time at the palm wine shop. My mother, gentle and tired, washed clothes for the rich to feed us. She believed that love could cure hunger, but hunger was a stubborn beast that refused to be tamed. We lived in a one-room mud house, the walls cracked like old skin, the roof leaking every time rain decided to visit. Nights were worse. The mosquitoes sang their songs while my stomach groaned louder. Sometimes I thought hunger wanted to eat me alive before any man ever could. Still I had dreams. I wanted to become a teacher, to hold chalk in my hands instead of begging bowls. I wanted to read books, to write my name boldly across pages, to escape the curse of illiteracy that chained my people. I believed that education was my way out. But dreams are expensive, and poverty hates dreamers. The first time I felt betrayal was not the day my father sold me. It was much earlier. I was 10 when he dragged me to the fields one morning. "Grace," he said, "school is for children who have food at home. You will help me on the farm." His words crushed me, but my mother begged him. She cried until he allowed me to attend part-time school. But even then, my notebooks were filled with holes and my pencils were chewed to half their size. My father's bitterness grew like a sickness. He said life had cheated him, so why should he care about us? He shouted at my mother, sometimes hit her, and more than once I saw him spit at her feet. But she stayed, like many women in our city, because leaving meant shame. Then came the drought. The earth cracked open like it was thirsting for its own blood. Crops withered, water dried, and even the goats cried at night. Hunger became the language of the city. Families broke apart. Mothers abandoned babies at doorsteps. Fathers disappeared into the wilderness searching for miracles. That was when the salt traders arrived. Men who carried bags of salt like treasures, for in those days, salt was worth more than gold. It preserved food, healed wounds, and was the only thing left that could give taste to a world gone bitter. That was the beginning of the end. I noticed my father staring at those traders longer than he stared at us. His eyes glowed whenever he saw salt, as if he had found the key to his wasted life. But he had nothing to trade. Nothing except me. One night, while I lay on the mat beside my mother, I heard them arguing. "Not my daughter," my mother cried. "She is not for sale." "Then you bring food," my father shouted. "Let your tears fill our stomachs." Let your love become rice and beans. Silence followed, broken only by my mother's sobs. That was when I realized something terrible was about to happen. And I was right. The next day, my father grabbed my hand and dragged me to the square. The air was hot, the dust thick, and my tears dried before they even reached my chin. The salt trader stood waiting, his donkey tied to a tree, his scarred face twisting into something like a smile. My father's voice was hard, his words sharp. She is strong. She can work. Give me the salt. My mother ran after us, screaming, begging, throwing herself on the ground. People gathered to watch, whispering but doing nothing. They said it was a family matter. They said it was destiny. They said it was not their business. And then it happened. Their hands shook. The trade was done. I was no longer a daughter. I was property. Mr. Daniels pulled me toward him, and I felt the world crumble under my feet. My mother fainted on the ground, her arms stretched toward me but never reaching. My father carried the bag of salt like a king carrying a crown. That was the moment my curse began. But what my father never knew was that curses do not sleep. They wait, they grow, and they return with vengeance sharper than knives. And as Mr. Daniels dragged me away, I swore with the last strength in me. I would live, I would survive, and one day I would tell the curse. That was when I saw it, blood dripping from the bag of salt. And that was the beginning of everything. The blood dripping from the bag of salt froze my legs in place. At first I thought my eyes were lying. But no, thick, dark drops fell onto the dusty ground, staining the earth like the footsteps of a ghost. Walk! Mr. Daniels barked, yanking my wrist so hard I thought it would break. I stumbled forward, my eyes still glued to the cursed bag of salt on my father's shoulder. My father didn't notice. Or maybe he pretended not to. He walked proudly with the bag on his back, grinning like he had just bought a kingdom. But the people in the square saw it. They gasped, they whispered, they even backed away. Still no one dared to speak. Fear silenced them. Fear of the traitor. Fear of whatever curse they thought was following us. I wanted to scream, to shout at them to save me, but my throat was a desert. No words came out. Only my heart screamed inside my chest, and even that felt too small to be heard. That night, after Mr. Daniels dragged me into his compound, I lay on the bare floor staring at the ceiling made of rusted zinc. The smell of dead animals floated in the air, mixed with something worse, something like rotten flesh. My stomach turned. My eyes watered. I wanted my mother. I wanted to believe this was a nightmare. But nightmares end when you wake up. This one didn't. I thought of the blood. Why did salt carry blood? Salt was supposed to be white, pure, clean. But that bag dripped like it had swallowed someone's life. Was it my life? Days passed. Mr. Daniels made me fetch water from the river, sweep his compound, cook meals I never ate. He locked me in a dark room at night, and every time I heard chains rattling outside, my body shook. Sometimes I heard the cries of other girls, distant, weak, like voices trapped in bottles. By morning, silence always followed. A silence heavier than death. One evening, while I scrubbed a pot, he stood watching me. His eyes burned holes in my back. "You are strong," he said finally, his voice low. "That's why I chose you." Chose me. No, bought me. Like a goat. Like a bag of corn. I did not answer. Fear was a blade in my throat. But deep inside me another voice spoke. "Survive, Grace. Survive until you can escape. Survive until you can return the curse." The only thing that kept me alive was that voice. Meanwhile, in my father's house, the curse had already started. I didn't see it, but I later learned it from whispers in the city. The night he brought the bag of salt home, my mother refused to touch it. "That salt carries blood," she told him. But my father laughed, mocking her fear. He cooked with it. He licked it from his fingers like sugar. He bragged to his drinking friends about how salt had finally lifted him from shame. The next morning, his tongue swelled. His lips cracked. He tried to drink water, but the water turned salty in his mouth. He vomited until his body shook, yet he refused to blame the salt. He called it sickness, bad luck, anything but what it truly was. And the more he denied it, the worse it grew. But I didn't know all this then. I only knew my pain. One afternoon, while I was sweeping the compound, I saw something strange. A small wooden box buried half into the earth near the corner of the fence. The soil around it was fresh, like someone had hidden it recently. My heart thumped as I dug it out with my fingers, brushing away the dirt. The box was heavy, locked with iron. On top of it were words carved deep. "Blood pays for salt." My hands trembled. My breath caught in my chest. I didn't understand, but I knew it was dangerous. Before I could hide it, Mr. Daniels's shadow fell over me. He was holding a machete, his face twisted with rage. "What are you doing there?" he thundered. Froze. My hands still clutched the box. His eyes darted from me to the box, and something dark flashed across his face. He dropped the machete, snatched the box from me, and shoved me so hard I fell. "Never touch what doesn't belong to you," he growled. "Unless you want to join the others." The others. The ones whose cries I heard at night. That night, locked in the room, I lay awake shaking. My heart told me one thing. That box was the secret. That box carried the curse. And if I wanted to survive, I needed to open it. But how? As I wrestled with my thoughts, I heard footsteps outside. Slow, heavy, deliberate. They stopped at my door. I held my breath. The lock clicked. The door creaked open. And there, standing in the darkness, was Mr. Daniels. His machete glistening in the moonlight. The blade of the machete shone like a snake's tongue in the moonlight. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I thought it would break out of my chest. Mr. Daniels stepped inside, closing the door behind him. The air grew heavier, thicker, like even the walls were afraid to breathe. "You are not like the others," he said, his voice low, almost gentle. But that gentleness carried the weight of death. "The others cried too much. The others begged. You are quiet, strong. That is why I kept you." My lips were dry. I wanted to scream, to run, to vanish. But my body betrayed me. I froze like a goat tied for slaughter. He raised the machete slowly, testing its sharpness with his thumb. My eyes followed the blade, and in that instant I thought of my mother. Her cries in the marketplace. Her hands reaching for me as I was dragged away. Her face when she collapsed to the ground. Would she ever see me again? "Do you know why your father sold you?" Mr. Daniels asked suddenly. I swallowed, shaking my head. "Because his greed is hungrier than any stomach. Because he wanted salt more than he wanted blood. And blood is what salt demands." His words stabbed deeper than the machete could. Blood is what salt demands. I understood then. This was not just a trade. It was a ritual. A curse wrapped in white crystals. He lowered the machete and crouched in front of me. His scarred face leaned close, his breath sour and hot. "The box you touched," he whispered, "is the covenant. Every grain of salt carries a life. Every bag must be fed with blood. That is the price. That is the curse." I gasped, my whole body shaking. "Then why me? Why keep me alive?" His eyes glinted. "Because you are not ready yet. The bag your father carried is still hungry. When the hunger grows too loud, he will pay with his flesh. But you..." His hand touched my cheek, rough and cold. "You might live long enough to carry the curse further." I wanted to spit on him. I wanted to claw his face until the scars bled again. But I kept still because silence was my only weapon. Then, without warning, he raised the machete high. My heart stopped. This was it. This was the end. But instead of striking me, he slammed the blade into the wooden door beside me. Splinters flew, the machete quivered, and his laughter filled the room like thunder. "Not tonight, little one," he said. "Tonight, I will let you dream of freedom. Tomorrow, I will remind you it doesn't exist." He pulled the blade free and walked out, locking the door behind him. The silence after his laughter was worse than the sound itself. That night I cried silently into my hands. But as tears soaked my palms, I made a vow. I would escape. I didn't know how or when, but I would. And when I did, I would carry the curse back to my father. Days turned into weeks. I watched everything carefully. The guards who came to deliver food, the way Mr. Daniels locked the gates, the times he left for trade. I memorized his footsteps, his habits, his weaknesses. My fear turned into fuel. Then one evening, while carrying water from the river, I saw it. An opening in the back fence, hidden behind a pile of rusted tins. It was small, narrow, but big enough for a desperate girl. My heart leaped. That night I couldn't sleep. I counted the hours until dawn, until I could test my only chance. But fate did not wait for me. In the middle of the night, screams tore through the compound. Women's voices, sharp and terrified, echoing like thunder. I pressed my ear to the door, trembling. "Another one has escaped," someone shouted. "No," another voice wailed. "She didn't escape. The river took her." My skin prickled. The river. I heard chains rattling, men running, dogs barking. Mr. Daniels's voice roared above all. "Find her body. The salt must be fed." I stumbled back from the door, my chest heaving. A girl was gone. The salt demanded her. And I knew with every bone in my body that I was next. The next morning Mr. Daniels came for me. His machete dangled from his hand. His eyes bloodshot with rage. He dragged me into the courtyard where the other girls were gathered, thin, trembling, their faces hollow. In the center of the courtyard lay the box. The same one I had touched. It was open now. Inside was not salt but bones. Small bones. Human bones. Children's bones. I staggered back, my stomach twisting. My ears rang. "This," Mr. Daniels growled, pointing to the box, "is the price of life. You either feed it, or you become it." He turned to me, his gaze burning holes through my skin. "Today you will choose." The other girls gasped. My knees weakened. My vision blurred. Choose. Choose between what? Then I saw it. The machete in his hand, and the trembling girl he pulled forward from the line. Her eyes begged me, pleaded with me. And Mr. Daniels placed the machete in my hands. "Kill her," he whispered, his voice colder than the night wind. "Or join her bones." The machete burned in my hands. Its weight was heavier than any stone, heavier than my own body. The trembling girl before me. Her name was Mary. I had whispered it to her one night through the cracks of our prison walls. Mary, with eyes like dying candles, who once told me she had a little brother waiting for her at home. Now she stood in front of me, offered like a lamb, and Mr. Daniels's voice was the butcher's command. "Kill her, or join her bones." The courtyard spun around me. The other girls huddled together, too afraid to breathe. Their eyes darted between me and the open box filled with bones. Bones that once had names. Bones that once had dreams. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the machete. Tears filled my eyes until Mary's face blurred. My throat burned. I can't," I whispered. Mr. Daniels stepped closer. His scarred face twisted with rage. He grabbed my wrist and forced the machete higher. "Do it," he thundered. "This is how you live. Blood for salt, or salt for blood." Mary whimpered, her lips trembling. She didn't beg me. She didn't ask me to spare her. She only whispered, "Grace, don't let them win." Her words cut deeper than any blade. "Don't let them win." Froze. My heart screamed louder than fear. I couldn't kill her. I wouldn't kill her. And in that refusal I chose my fate. "No!" I cried, throwing the machete to the ground. My voice echoed off the compound walls. My chest heaved, my eyes blazed. "I will not kill her. If you want blood, take mine." The courtyard fell silent. Even the birds stopped singing. Mr. Daniels stared at me, stunned. His chest rose and fell like a storm gathering. Then he laughed. a dark, bone-chilling laugh that cracked the air. "You have fire," he said finally, his teeth flashing. "Fire burns fast, but it also burns out." He kicked the machete aside, grabbed my hair, and yanked me toward the open box of bones. My knees scraped the ground, my skin tearing against the dirt. He pushed my face so close to the box I could smell the dry dust of death. "Look," he hissed. "This is where fire ends. This is where defiance dies." The girls gasped. My heart pounded. For a moment, I thought he would shove me in and slam the lid. But instead, he flung me backward, my body hitting the earth hard. "You will learn," he growled. "You will beg to kill. Because when the curse grows, it chooses who it wants. And it has already chosen you." Then he turned away, his laughter echoing. That night, they locked us all back in the rooms. Mary pressed her palm against the wall between us, whispering, "Thank you, Grace. Even if we die, at least you tried." Her voice was a small flame in the endless dark. But as I lay on the floor, staring at the ceiling, something else stirred inside me. Not just fear. Not just defiance. Plan. The box was the curse. The bones were the proof. If I could destroy it or steal it, I could end this nightmare. But to do that, I needed help. The next morning, while fetching water, I whispered to one of the girls named Sarah. She was older, maybe 16, with sharp eyes that always seemed to see more than the rest of us. "We need to escape," I muttered, my hands trembling on the bucket. She gave me a look that was both warning and interest. "Escape. From him. No one escapes. The last girl tried. And the river swallowed her." "But what if the river didn't?" I whispered back. "What if she found a way out? What if we can too?" Sarah's eyes narrowed. She leaned closer. "What are you planning, Grace?" "Not just running," I said. "Taking the box. If we leave it, the curse follows us. If we take it, maybe it dies." Sarah froze. Then a small smile curved her lips. "You're mad," she whispered. "But maybe madness is what we need." For the first time since I was sold, hope flickered. We spent the next days watching carefully how the guards moved when Mr. Daniels left, when the courtyard was empty. We whispered through cracks in the walls. We carved maps into the dirt with our fingernails. We planned in silence and fear. But just as hope began to grow, terror struck again. One evening, Mr. Daniels returned from the market with a bag heavier than the last. His face glowed with triumph. He threw the bag to the ground in the courtyard, and as it split open, salt spilled everywhere, gleaming white crystal sparkling in the sunset. And mixed within that salt was fresh blood. The girls screamed. I staggered back, my stomach twisting. Mr. Daniels spread his arms wide, his voice booming. "The curse is hungry. Tonight, it will feed again." He pointed straight at Mary. "Bring her," he ordered. Guards grabbed her arms. She screamed, kicking, fighting, but they dragged her toward the box. And I, helpless, shaking, watched as her eyes found mine. "Grace," she cried. "Don't let them take me." Her scream pierced my soul. My body moved before my mind could think. I lunged for the machete lying near the courtyard wall. My hands wrapped around it. My breath came in ragged gasps. For the first time I was holding the blade, not as a victim but as a weapon. And all eyes turned to me. The machete shook in my hands, but this time it was not from fear. It was from rage. The courtyard froze. The guards stopped mid-step. Mary's screams hung in the air like broken glass. And Mr. Daniels turned. His scarred face twisted into something between amusement and fury. "Well, well," he said slowly, his voice dripping like poison. "The little goat grows horns." My chest heaved. My knuckles whitened on the handle of the machete. I had no plan, no strength compared to him, no chance against his guards. But I had something sharper than the blade. I had desperation. "Let her go," I said, my voice cracking but loud enough for all to hear. "If you want blood, take mine. But I will not let you touch her." The other girls gasped. For the first time, hope flickered in their hollow eyes. Mr. Daniels laughed, throwing his head back. The sound was not human. It was the sound of something that enjoyed breaking spirits. He stepped toward me slowly, like a predator circling prey. "You think you are strong," he hissed. "You think defiance saves you. Defiance only makes the curse hungrier." He lunged suddenly. Instinct moved me. I swung the machete wildly. The blade sliced through the air and grazed his arm. A thin line of blood opened on his skin. Everything stopped. Mr. Daniels stared at his wound, eyes wide with shock. No one had ever dared spill his blood. His face darkened like a storm. "You," he growled, his voice shaking with rage. "You dare." The guards rushed forward, but before they could grab me, Sarah, the sharp-eyed girl, threw herself in their way. She screamed at the others. "Now! If you want to live, now is the time." Chaos erupted. Girls scattered in every direction, screaming, kicking, fighting. Dust filled the courtyard, blinding us all. I grabbed Mary's arm, yanking her free from the guard's grip. "Run!" shouted. We bolted toward the back fence, where I had seen the small opening days before. My heart pounded, my legs burned, but I did not stop. Behind us, Mr. Daniels roared like an animal. "Catch them! Bring me their bones!" Arrows whistled through the air. One struck the ground beside me. Another sliced past my ear. The world blurred with fear, but I kept running. We reached the fence. Sarah was already there, shoving aside the rusted tins to reveal the hole. One by one, girls crawled through, their thin bodies slipping into freedom. "Go!" Sarah screamed at me. "Take Mary. I'll hold them off." "No!" cried. "Come with us." She shook her head, her eyes blazing. "If we all try to crawl, they'll catch us. Someone must stay. Someone must fight." Before I could argue, she grabbed the machete from my hand and turned to face the oncoming guards. Her voice rang through the courtyard like thunder. "If we die fighting." Tears blurred my vision as I dragged Mary through the fence. On the other side was the open wilderness, the dark forest that bordered the city, full of shadows and whispers. We ran. We didn't look back. Branches tore at our skin, thorns ripped our clothes, but fear drove us faster than hunger ever had. The forest was alive with sounds, crickets, owls, and something deeper, something that seemed to follow our footsteps. We didn't stop until our lungs burned and our legs nearly gave out. Finally, we collapsed near a riverbank, gasping for breath. For a moment, silence. Only the water's gentle rush filled the night. Then Mary spoke, her voice trembling. "Grace. Sarah, she's still back there." My throat tightened. Sarah's face blazed in my memory. Her fire, her sacrifice. "She gave us a chance," I whispered. "We can't waste it." But even as I said it, guilt gnawed at my heart. I had left her. We all had. Mary curled into herself, sobbing. I wanted to hold her, to comfort her, but my own body shook too hard. My ears rang with Mr. Daniels's voice. My eyes still saw the blood in the salt. I thought of my father then, sitting in the mud house, proud of his cursed bag. Did he even know what he had unleashed? Did he even care? Or was he still licking the salt from his fingers while my mother cried herself blind? A cold wind swept across the river. The water rippled, shining silver under the moon. For a moment I thought it whispered. I leaned closer, my skin prickling. And then I saw it. Floating on the river's surface was the face of a girl. Pale, lifeless, her eyes wide open. Her body drifted slowly past us, hair tangled in weeds. Mary screamed. I staggered back, my heart slamming against my ribs. It was the girl who had escaped. The one they said the river swallowed. She was dead. And her body carried a trail of salt behind it, dissolving into the water like blood. The river whispered again. Voice. Low, dark, ancient. Blood for salt, salt for blood. My knees buckled. My vision blurred. And in that moment I knew. The curse was not just in Mr. Daniels's compound. The curse was alive in the land itself. It would follow us, hunt us, until it was fed. Mary clutched my arm, her nails digging into my skin. Grace, what do we do now? Before I could answer, torches flickered in the distance. Voices shouted. Dogs barked. Mr. Daniels's men were in the forest. They were coming. The forest lit up with torches. Shadows leapt across the trees as Mr. Daniels's men closed in, their dogs snarling, their voices sharp. My heart hammered. Mary clung to me, her nails digging deep into my skin. Grace, they'll catch us, she whispered. No, I said, though fear strangled me. Not if we run. We stumbled through the undergrowth, branches clawing at our arms, roots snatching at our feet. But no matter how fast we moved, the sounds followed. The crack of branches, the shouts of men, the growl of dogs. And then, the river began to roar. Not the soft trickle we heard before, but a deep, thundering roar, like the earth itself was tearing open. We froze at the bank, staring at the raging water. The body of the dead girl was gone, but the salt she left behind glimmered across the surface like stars. Mary's eyes widened with terror. We can't cross. We'll drown. Behind us, torches glowed brighter. Mr. Daniels's voice boomed through the night. You cannot run from the curse. Blood must pay. The dogs barked closer, closer. My body trembled, but my mind burned. I remembered Sarah's fire. I remembered the bones in the box. And I remembered my father, the man who had traded me for salt, who had unleashed this curse. I gritted my teeth. Then let the curse return to him. Before Mary could ask what I meant, I grabbed her hand and dragged her upstream, where the river bent toward the road that led back to the city. We ran until the torches faded behind us. When dawn broke, the city rose from the dust, its crooked rooftops glowing red in the early sun. And there, at the marketplace, I saw him, my father. He was seated under a broken umbrella, his lips cracked, his tongue swollen, his eyes bloodshot. Beside him lay the cursed bag of salt, half empty now, the ground beneath it stained with red. People walked past, whispering, staring, but none dared to come close. My mother sat a few steps away, her face gaunt with grief, her body shaking with silent sobs. My chest burned. My throat closed. This was the man who had traded me like a cow. The man who had poisoned us all. Mary tugged at my arm. Grace, don't go near him. But I stepped forward. My feet moved on their own, drawn by something greater than anger, drawn by the curse itself. My father's head lifted. His eyes found mine. For a moment, disbelief filled his face. Then shame. Then desperation. Grace, he croaked, his voice dry as dust. Daughter, you came back. I stopped just a few feet from him. My body shook with rage and sorrow. You sold me, I whispered, my voice trembling. For that. I pointed at the bag of salt. Do you see what you brought on us? His lips quivered. I was hungry. We were dying. I thought. You thought salt was worth more than blood. I shouted, my voice cracking through the marketplace. People turned, watching, listening. Now look at you. Look at what you've done. The bag of salt shifted. It split wider, spilling across the ground. And once again, blood seeped from it. Dark, thick, spreading like roots across the dust. The people gasped, stepping back. The curse had come to claim him. My father clawed at the ground, dragging himself toward me. Grace, save me, he begged. I'm your father. Please. Tears blurred my eyes. My heart battled itself. Love against hatred, blood against betrayal. My mother's sobs cut through the noise. But then the voice came. The same voice I had heard at the river. Low, dark, ancient. Blood for salt, salt for blood. The crowd scattered, terrified. My father's body convulsed. Salt spilled from his mouth, his nose, his eyes. His skin blistered as though fire burned inside him. He screamed, a sound that ripped the sky. And then he collapsed. Silent. The bag beside him burst open, spilling its final contents. Bones. Children's bones, white as chalk, clattering across the marketplace. My mother wailed, covering her face. Mary screamed. The people fled. And me. I stood frozen, tears streaming down my cheeks, staring at the bones, at my father's lifeless body, at the curse that had destroyed us all. The voice whispered one last time. The curse is not broken. It only sleeps. Until another trade is made. The blood in my veins turned to ice. The truth was clear, the curse would never end. It would move, it would wait, it would follow Salt wherever it went. Nay. I had lived to tell it. But living with a curse is no life at all. As I stared at the bones, one thought burned inside me. What if the curse has chosen me next?